Hey YouTube. Today we're going to be installing this Alpine ILX W650 7-inch audio receiver into our 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee. The kit came from Crutchfield and it came with a Metra insulation bezel and a wiring harness. So I brought this inside to actually make up the wiring harness. This is the factory harness. And this here is the Metra kit that came from Crutchfield. And this here is specific to Chrysler vehicles and specific to the WJ Jeep Grand Cherokee. The colors match up for the most part. There are a couple on this wiring harness here. That is the Alpine wiring harness that's a little bit different from standard. More so these long ones. So we're not really going to mess with the long ones. We're just going to take a look at the short ones, not these with connectors on them. So I'm going to try to lay this out in the way we're going to actually handle it. These are the cables that we're going to connect to these two pieces of the wiring harness. These are all the speaker wires, plus these two. This is the illumination wire, which the Alpine doesn't have. The Alpine has a little sensor on the front of the radio that dims itself when its surroundings gets dark, so we're not going to be using this one particular. This here is your accessory power, which would go into this one. This here is your battery power, and you'd notice that this lead is quite a bit heavier than this one. We're also going to just go ahead and reuse this. I'm actually going to solder these together and then put some heat shrink on there to keep it nice and secure. And then I'm actually going to zip tie them all together so they won't go anywhere. Here you go. Here's the finished wiring harness. Wired up, soldered up. Next thing to do is to put it in the vehicle. So here's the wiring harness all made up the way I wanted to. This is the part that is native to the vehicle. Plugs right in. And these are the extra cables, the ground. This one here is the remote for the base. This is for the backup camera, and this last one here goes to the handbrake. Here we have the radio in the bezel. It's not the best fit really. I put a couple of pieces of foam insulation on the top and the bottom to cover up a little bit of space that I see when I put the bezel on, and I just mounted the mounts on the side just to try it out. Next we're going to move inside the vehicle. So removing the radio is relatively easy. You just got to pop this panel off, which the vents come off with, and then there are 4 screws behind here. And then there are 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if I hit it with some light, if you might see it a little bit better. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully with a little bit of light we could see with the 4 screws out, the radio could come out. There's a couple cables in the back. It's quite dusty in there, as you could see. If you're taking this radio out for the first time, note that there are just two little ridges on the original connectors that you just need to pop the clip for so that they could come out easily. This is the ground wire. You just need to squeeze this little button here, and the antenna wire. This Jeep doesn't need an adapter. I'm going to attempt to clean the inside out here a little bit, but this here is a subframe that needs to come out. And there's a part down below there that needs to come out too. With a whole lot better light now, we could see that there's absolutely no way this thing is going in there without trimming that subdash. So before we start trimming, let's go ahead and plug the radio up and make sure it turns on the way we want it to turn on. and everything works before we go cutting and all that good stuff. I'm just gonna splice this ground wire and use the same ground wire. We're not gonna test the bass amp just yet. We're just gonna test the functionality of the radio. All right, before we go doing anything, let's just fire this up. There we go, Alpine. Maybe we could run through the initial setup. English, okay. How do we tune? So let's go ahead and unplug this and start cutting into the dash. In order to remove this, I need to make, it looks like I need to make one cut here, one cut here. Take this screw off. This little tab might need to go. Unless I could maneuver the radio under it, because it'll come flush up against this piece here. And this is a little bit forward. And then there's, I don't know if you could see it, but there's two strap looking things back there that need to come off. Once they come off, then I should be able to slide the radio in. The cables for the amplifier and the subwoofer amplifier will come up through that little hole way down in the corner. I'm not sure if you could see it in this shot, but it's way down in the corner. I'm going to stick the cables up through that hole, and then I'll also have to do the same thing with one for the backup camera. Those will be other videos, but let's go ahead and cut this and mount into here. Alright, with the hole cut out, let's see how this bad boy fits up in there. And it's still a tight fit. Might have to do some work. Oh, there we go. That's how it fits up in there. The screw holes match. Just got to tuck that foam in. And the bezel will come right over it like so. Alright, that looks almost like a winner there. Time to just run some cables, and we're gonna move the vent. Before we continue with anything, we need to take these vents off the old bezel and put them on the new one. There's some little plastic spot wells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one here, 8 in the middle. Not sure if you could see it. We're just gonna hit that with a soldering iron and just melt them and take them out. And then we put them onto the new one, and then they're just 4 that we got to do the same thing with. We could do it with that, or we could do it with epoxy or anything like that that just holds this down to the bezel. We also need to trim. If you notice here, this part here is a whole lot thinner than here, so we're gonna have to trim some of this off. The bottom should be fine. I think I'm just gonna try to use a Dremel to cut these wells off. Just had to clean up some of the holes here so that they could fit right into here, and then mark how much needs to cut off on the top. Alright, welded into place. This didn't weld too well, but is in place. So I pulled the air conditioning controls out so I could fish the wires for the base amp all the way through. This is the remote. This here is the one that goes to the handbrake, which I'll wire that up after and show you that. Right now I just want to get all the cables in place and plugged in up here. We also have the one for the backup camera that'll come through the same way on the other side and go down the driver's side of the vehicle. Mind you, I still have to go wire the amp up and all that. And I'm gonna have to find a place for the ground. So this one goes to blue and yellow. Blue and yellow goes here. The lead for the amp goes here. This is for backup camera. So the only two really left to do is, the only one really left to do is the ground and antenna. Alright, just neaten up this wiring harness before I start plugging stuff up. Alright, so I think this is as neat as I could get all these cables. We have 2 wiring harnesses, that's everything. Antenna, USB, microphone. Alright, before I install the bezel, let's give it a go and see what happens. With that working, let's go ahead and put the screws in and then put the bezel on. So I still have a mess in this Jeep, but a couple of things to do. To get this thing to keep from locking out the menus, I gotta get this cable plugged into the handbrake lead. So in the center console there's 2 screws, one here. I don't know if you can see it because of the light, but there's one right there as well. We gotta take those 2 out. The inside should lift off and that should give us access to the switch for the emergency brake. So there's the lead for the handbrake switch, and I just gotta take a tap off of that and that should do it. Alright, so hopefully you could see down in there where I just splice off the handbrake switch. If you look up in the instrument cluster, you'll see the brake light on. Now, maybe the light is too bright. Now, when I hit setup, I could go into volume and get all the other settings that were locked out, like information. If I had the camera going. So now let's just go ahead and button it up. We gotta wire up the amp and set the microphone up. Alright, so here's the finished product. I don't really like this bezel all that much. It fits okay. Maybe I could do some adjustment on the radio later on. But right now, it fits, is in there secure. The radio works fine. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of work, especially the cutting out of the stuff and putting the cables in. But other than that, it went in pretty fine with the exception of the fit on this bezel, which is not the greatest. But it'll do. Hope you like this video. If you do, hit subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one. God bless.